Let's first start with the average age that people are starting to take out medical aid, because, according to your presentation today, people are taking out medical aid at a lot later stage in life. Discovery Health, the average age is 31.8. The sector peers average age 34.8. What implications does this have for private healthcare?
I think it's a very important trend, and what the implications it has is that medical schemes, remember, are not-for-profit vehicles. They rely on a subsidy from the young and the healthy to fund the much higher claims of the older and the sick. And if systematically people are joining later, closer to the time when they'll start claiming more, schemes struggle to raise enough premiums over time to fund the higher claim. So this is leading, it's a slow process, it's not a dramatic issue, but it's a slow process in which, because people can choose when they join and a medical scheme must accept anyone who applies to join, it is putting strain on the system.
How do you target this younger market then? I mean, what is your approach to winning younger clients in order to, of course, keep the model going?
Right. I think if you look at most other countries where they have a system which requires health insurers to accept all comers with a community rate, in other words, a single premium, what most other countries have in addition is compulsory membership. So Obamacare in the US, a key element of it is the mandate that everyone above a certain age must be insured. We're missing that leg of the regulation here in South Africa, and it does make life very challenging, for medical schemes. In Discovery, we've had now for nearly 20 years the Vitality program. It's a very powerful mechanism for incentivizing people to keep fit, to keep healthy. It has been part of attracting, good risks to the scheme. I think the main strategy is design very good products and keep the premiums as affordable as possible, and then educate the public that having health insurance is critical. Even if you feel like you're young and immortal, you never know when there's the car accident around the corner or a major illness. These things don't only happen to middle-aged and elderly people. They happen at any time. It's unpredictable, and you need the insurance, for that rainy day.
Yeah. Let's talk about inflation in the medical space, because South Africa's medical inflation sitting at 10.9% versus average inflation over the past 3 years, 5.5%. And you compare that to the States, where medical inflation over the past 3 years has averaged 7.5%. So we're higher than America at this point in time. But of course, America's overall inflation sitting at 1.6%. But why is growth in inflation in South Africa outpacing basically the overall CPI level?
So I think just to make one point on the comparison with the US, actually the gap between underlying CPI and medical inflation is very similar. It's 5.5% here. The gap in the US is actually bigger, it's 6%. So their total is lower only because inflation is lower there. Why does medical inflation outpace CPI? I think firstly it's not a South African problem. It is a global problem, it's universal. And there are a number of drivers of it. One is aging population. The second is
basically just more expensive.
More expensive because older people get chronic disease and cancer much more frequently than young people. Secondly, there is a growing burden across the world and in South Africa of chronic illness, often related to lifestyle, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. It's a global epidemic, and we're definitely seeing it here. We're seeing more cancer. We have brand new technologies entering the market every other week. Many of them are life-changing and brilliant, but they come at a very high cost. We have the opposite of Moore's law in technology, where in IT, new technology comes on cheaper. In healthcare, it comes on to the market often many times more expensive.
So what are you doing? I mean, when are you going to get to that critical mass when it comes to volumes using the technology that are going to offset the higher cost of technology? I mean, what is your evaluation as to when that point in time will be reached?
I'm not sure that point in time will be reached, to be honest. There's an inherent dynamic in the health system in which the R&D that's required to produce new technology and new medicine is incredibly expensive, and the companies that have made those investments need to recoup. And so I think the only life cycle you do see in pharmaceuticals, for example, is when a patent expires, you get generics, and then you get the costs coming down. But the new technology, regardless of scale, seems to come onto the market at a huge premium. to the older technology that it's replacing. I think there's also obviously issues around tariffs that we've been discussing in South Africa, and those drive inflation as well. And I think the key point I'd like to leave your audience with is it's actually a multifactorial situation and issue. There's no one culprit, there's no one body or party you can point a finger at. It's a complex global problem. We do believe we can bend the cost curve. I think in Discovery Health, we're doing that successfully every year. We're negotiating good deals with suppliers, we're managing risk, we're dealing with fraud. There's a whole range of issues, and it is a complex situation.
Yeah, it certainly is, and one that we're following here in South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us today. That was Jonathan Broomberg, CEO of Discovery Health.